All right. So we are here, another Facebook Live, just waiting for the hordes of human beings to show up, and we'll get this thing going. Rhoda, welcome to another Facebook Live. So tonight, we're going to be going over some menopausal stuff. Hey Debbie, good to see you. Amadea, glad you're here. Bunch of questions from patients. So when I say menopause, it means it's a lot of ladies that were asking these questions related to hot flashes, bone density, libido in the 50s and 60s. Had questions about depression and once they went into menopause, having a lot of issues with mindset. So hey Jenny, good to see you. So I'm going to go through these. Funny thing is, when you talk about maybe menopause, a time in life where a woman's going through post having a menstrual cycle, and but a lot of people are having hysterectomies these days, total hysterectomies, or a lot of women are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just for 50 plus crowd or 60 plus crowd kind of thing. A lot of women are dealing with a lot of symptoms and signs related to low hormones and or low sensitivity to the hormones. On the hysterectomy thing, one thing to mention, since so many women have hysterectomies these days, and even if it's not a total hysterectomy where the ovaries are being taken out as well, amazingly enough, the uterine muscle itself actually produces some hormones for us, namely pregnenolone, which is really big for our brain, one of the most important hormones for maintaining a healthy brain and cognition long term. So if you are thinking, man, I cannot think very well anymore, my memory is going way too fast, and I had a hysterectomy, and maybe you still have your ovaries and everything, but you lost your uterus for whatever reason, you may want to get your pregnenolone levels checked, that hormone, because it could be a huge player in why you're feeling that way. And pregnenolone is a precursor to testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. So any of those hormones could potentially be low or not being as functional just because the uterus is gone, even though you still have your ovaries. So definitely something to check out, pregnenolone. We can write that hormone word on, maybe Rhoda, if you're still on here. You can write that in there. Good one to get checked for women who've had hysterectomies, making sure that that level is sufficient. So things I would be considering if you had, say, this is kind of the general menopausal situation. You're 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, somewhere in there, and now you have not had a period for 12 months, or you had your FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, that hormone checked, and it shows it's over 40 and it's been over 40, then more than likely you're in menopause. And when you're in menopause, a couple things I would strongly think about if you are having any kind of symptomatic menopause. So that may be depression, anxiety attacks now, maybe headaches, maybe your bone density is going down, weight gain, especially around the belly, super common postmenopausally. Just general energy is not as good, insomnia, any of those kind of things related to a hormone level that was up here and now is down here. I would definitely get your B12 levels checked, vitamin D levels checked, thyroid levels checked, and your adrenal glands checked. So that'd be like especially your first thing in the morning cortisol level, just to make sure your DHEA level, another hormone, I wrote a good one. The pregnenolone's right on there. You could always list out the cortisol, DHEA, thyroid hormone panel, B12, vitamin D. Make sure you get those levels checked because those are super commonly deficient in symptomatic menopausal women. There's plenty of other reasons to be symptomatic, but those would kind of be the most common. And common things happen commonly, so that's why we check those regularly. All right. So yeah, you get those levels checked, and then you're probably gonna have to supplement with sublingual B12 ongoing to keep your B12 levels up, because it becomes really, really difficult, especially when the hormones do die down, to maintain adequate B12 levels and have enough digestive juices to take it up and break it down and pull it into your bloodstream. So you'd want to take it underneath your tongue. All right, so talking about libido. So that was one of the questions we had today. A woman was asking about, came through the via the emails. Woman is asking, how does she increase her libido now that she's in menopause? Because it seems to have gone away. So one thing to get checked would be your testosterone levels. Really, really important. Because the thing is, your estrogen and your progesterone are just going to be low when you're in menopause. They're going to go from like maxing out at 250, 300 down to like 10, unfortunately, or 15. So they're going to be really, really low. However, your testosterone levels generally will stay pretty similar in the range of about 15, 20, 25. And if they do, then usually libido is maintained pretty well. If they don't, then it's not. So getting those levels checked, good idea. Other thing to consider would be, if libido is low, is zinc intake or your zinc levels. So might want to get a plasma zinc level test done. Or you could just try supplementing with a little bit of zinc for a while. Or eating, say, zinc is really high in nuts and seeds, oysters, pretty much all your meats, goose, duck, all have high zinc levels. But zinc is really, really important for testosterone metabolism and enabling your body to synthesize luteinizing hormone. And luteinizing hormone comes from your pituitary gland and tells your body to create testosterone. So without luteinizing hormone, then you end up with a lot of lower testosterone levels. So zinc would be a huge player there, and is commonly deficient with age, and just literally in the general population, zinc is really commonly deficient. Even cut off the subject, but kids with ADD, ADHD, zinc is one of the most common nutrient insufficiencies. So you get those levels up, and a lot of times that in and of itself can be super, super helpful. Of course, if your zinc levels are going up, it's probably because you're eating really wholesome diet, or much more wholesome diet, or these kids are too. So that might be a player too, not just simply the zinc being low. But definitely want to check that out. So yeah, you could do that. I mean, there are a bunch of herbs as far as libido goes. Generally, though, I haven't seen a ton of benefit from a lot of herbs, just specifically if you don't do, basically get some physical activity going a lot. You get, using some hormones that can help with, not hormones, sorry, but you use some herbs that can help with hormone sensitivity or act as phytoestrogens or phytoprogesterones. Maybe like throwing a bunch of ground flaxseed into the diet, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds. Things will have these fatty acids in there that have either a progesterogenic or estrogenic effect. Those can be pretty helpful. If you do those kind of things, the physical activity, seeds, getting good sleep, making sure your stress response is pretty decent. And those will definitely help with libido. But you could also consider the like if you have vaginal atrophy. So that's basically where the vaginal tissues are really dry, atrophying. Maybe intercourse would be super painful, and so that's going to decrease your libido in and of itself. So then, you might want to look at vitamin E creams, or maybe some estriol, EST. RIOL, like a 1% estriol cream or a 0.01% estriol cream can work really, really good and youthify those tissues without having this big systemic effect, like if you're taking estradiol, the stronger estrogens. So definitely something to consider. I would 100% ask your doctor about that. If you're postmenopausal, any kind of vaginal atrophy, you've got to ask them about using bioidentical estriol, ESTRIOL cream, because that could be a massive game changer and make your life so much better. And especially as well if you get urinary tract infections as a woman, estriol cream is amazing at helping decrease those, because if tissues are really dry, cracking, then the ability of bacteria to go right up through the urethra is much, much easier. Whereas if there's a lot of lubrication, then the bacteria will be trapped, and it's very hard for them to move upstream up against urine and that kind of thing if there's lots of lubrication. So estriol, and sometimes testosterone too, but estriol is just so benign that it's a good one to give a go at if you have any of those kind of symptoms, and you're not you don't want to have to think about what's the issues with potential cancers and that kind of thing, breast cancers, ovarian cancers. if maybe if those were present in the body but you didn't know, and then you're adding in hormones to the system. Estriol, basically, there's studies showing that the higher your estriol levels are, the less risk you have of these hormone-related cancers. So it's really, really valuable hormone. It can be massively beneficial with hardly any side effects, or no side effects really, unless somehow you're allergic to it. But I have had one woman I can think of that was allergic, but 9.98% out of 10, or 9.98 people out of 10 aren't. So good one to give a go at. All right, so really big one is hot flashes. So a woman was asking, saying basically my life's terrible. I just have hot flashes all day long. Is there please something you can talk about on here about what we could do about it? Then another woman emailed us as well asking kind of the similar question. So yeah, hot flashes are a big deal. Who wants to go around every day feeling like, just out of nowhere they ran a mile and they're just profusely sweating, or wake up night after night in these sweats, and then throw all the blankets off, and then you put the blankets back on because now you're cold. All this kind of stuff. It's no fun at all. I wouldn't want to deal with that. So things I would look at for sure is you got to think, okay, hot flashes are happening because there's some kind of imbalance. Granted, part of that is just the fact that you had a bunch of estrogen before and progesterone, and now you have a lot less of it. So we got to take care of that part of things. But no matter what, if the balance in the body, for instance, like blood sugar, if your blood sugar is really consistent, and you're not having these big mountains and valleys, then the opportunity for hot flashes to show up is very, very low. If you are having these big troughs, and your blood sugar is going down, their blood sugar is going up, say because of poor dietary decisions, then the chances of you having hot flashes is much, much higher. So we really, really have to lock down and make sure that our blood sugar is really, really, really stable. Our insulin level is really, really stable, and that will that's kind of like the foundation to make sure we don't end up in a hot flash craze. You got to have the foundation good, and then if we start stacking onto that foundation, say a little bit of physical activity. There's plenty of studies showing that physical activity decreases hot flash risk over time, and then we stack onto. So we got this awesome foods, vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, clean meats, some whole grains that are probably not wheat-based, minimal dairy intake from cows. If we have that going, so our blood sugar is really stable, and then we add on top of that a little physical activity, and then on top of that, maybe we add in some herbs like Simicifuga racemosa, which is an amazing herb. A lot of people get confused, and they I had this patient not too long ago. She was really concerned. I told her to take this herb, and then she went and talked to the health food person at the health food store, and they told her, no, you don't want to take that herb because it's estrogenic, and it could cause, because she had breast cancer history, it may potentiate breast cancer or feed breast cancer. Amazingly enough, I had to explain to this patient who was really scared and thought I was, this terrible doctor hurting her, all this kind of things, that actually, though it may be considered in a general sense a phytoestrogen, it actually has zero estrogenic activity. In fact, there's journal articles in many oncology journals showing and stating literally that it has no estrogenic activity, that it's fine to take when you have different cancers or hormone-related cancers, because it works. Simicifuga racemosa works by stopping the production of luteinizing hormone, or slowing its production way down. So luteinizing hormone, which I was talking about for helping create testosterone, it also helps stimulate estrogen production as well. Luteinizing hormone coming from our pituitary gland really is why you have a hot flash. So when luteinizing hormone surges, then a person has a hot flash. So if we can keep those surges to a minimum, then we're really unlikely to have hot flashes. So don't, yeah, sure, Debbie. So Simicifuga, so black cohosh is what people normally, black cohosh, black as in black, and then cohosh, Cohosh. That herb is the one, is Simicifiga racemosa. That's the herb that I'm talking about right now, related to decreasing hot flashes while not having an actual estrogenic effect. So don't let your health food store people trick you or convince you otherwise, or anybody else, because it doesn't. So on top of that, that's a really good herb to give a go at. I will say for basically all these herbs, it takes some women, tell them to take, these different formulas with this concoction of, say, red clover, dongui, vitex, black cohosh, maybe a little bit of licorice root extract in there to help with their adrenal glands. Within like 3 or 4 days, they're like, this is amazing. You are the best ever. My hot flashes are completely gone. But I will tell you that most studies of these herbs show that it takes like almost 3 months or 12 weeks for a lot of these to actually kick in, and now you have this awesome no hot flash effect. So you got to give them time. It is, though I do use bioidentical hormones in my practice, I try every way possible not to, and try as much as possible to use herbs and herbal extracts, and lifestyle changes to get rid of these hot flashes, because it's herbs that help with hot flashes are pretty much just they're about as benign as it gets. They're really just there acting as adaptogens to your hormonal system. So if you can get herbs to work and find the right concoction or blend that works for your body, then it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna help you out on so many other levels. And you're not gonna have to think about, I'm taking all these hormones, which I do give hormones, so I'm not saying it's bad, but it just complicates life a whole lot more when we add these hormones. We got to test urine levels and blood levels multiple times a year, and it definitely it costs a lot more money, the hormones themselves and all the testing and all that kind of stuff. So if you can do it via herbs, and you got to do, so if I said foundation is dietary change, right? So you got to have the dietary change there locked in. So that's lots of vegetable matter, nuts, seeds. I would suggest a lot of ground flaxseed, pretty much for it, as long as it's not an irritant to you or causing. So ground flaxseed or flaxseed does have really, really, really high levels of what are called lignans, like 70 to, I read it was like 800 times, 70 to 800 times, depending on the vegetables you're talking about, the amount of lignans in it compared to other whole foods. So it's just loaded with these guys. And lignans basically are what give us this kind of estrogenic response and help with balancing out hot flashes, sometimes like vaginal atrophy, mood, digestive changes related to lower hormones with menopause. So they can be pretty stinking amazing. Ground flax seeds, and are probably, if I was going to name one food substance to try to balance out hormones, especially in women, I would say it'd be the ground flax seeds. If you buy, I would try not to buy ground flax seeds. I would try to buy the whole flax seed. Then you can buy them in the fridge or out of the fridge, and then at home, put them in a little coffee grinder, grind them up yourself, keep them in your freezer, and then you can just add them to things as you go. Because if you buy them pre-ground, even if they're in the freezer or refrigerator, say at Fred Meyer or Costco or wherever, you don't know if they've always been in that refrigerator. I mean, when they travel, maybe they're out of the refrigerator, so they'll go rancid really, really fast if they're not well refrigerated. So yeah, ground flax seeds, huge deal. Welcome, Maria. Ground flax seeds, huge deal for all things related to menopause. And then, and if you have any kind of family history of cancers, even if you were male, prostate cancer is a really big one, because ground flax seeds show that, or lignans in general. The more lignans you have, basically, if you do these urinary tests, and the more lignans you have in your urine, the less likelihood you have of prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer. So the highest source that we know of, or I'm aware of, is ground flaxseed. You can also get lots of lignans from cranberries, strawberries, kale, broccoli. I wrote down a couple other ones that have, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. Those are all really high lignan foods as well. So I would kind of make those like those lists I just gave you, a plethora of those in your diet all the time, but especially if you're feeling like your hormones a little bit off, even if you were still menstruating and you're having irregular periods or heavy bleeding, or you've been on birth control, any of that kind of stuff where there's instability in your hormones, I would definitely put lignans in the picture. Or if you're like, man, I just got a family history of breast cancer. Talked to a woman today who has a sister who had breast cancer, and yeah, that's one thing. I was like, man, you got to get these lignans going through the roof to help decrease your own risk, since there is a family history there. Brett, you're allergic to almost all those. Well, we'll find something else. I'll take a look. I'll find something else and I'll put it up here that has lignans in it that you would be able to take if you're allergic to all those. We gotta figure out how to talk to your doc and get these allergies taken care of, because that's no good. These are a lot of really good foods that you're going to be missing out on. So Lisa says, I'm so excited to use this herbal combination instead of the bioidentical hormone therapy. Cool, Lisa. Yeah, I think it'll be really, really helpful long term. Doing the seeds rotations and the herbs. Herbs are so strong. Many times I feel like the reason that the herbal therapies don't work for people is, sometimes me or another doctor, we're just wrong. We're not diagnosing as efficiently as we should, or as good as we should, and so we're kind of giving the wrong herb for the situation. But most of the time, we're not wrong. We're just that we're not giving high enough doses of these herbs. So maybe we're following what the supplement company recommends, or we're just following what the label says, as opposed to what actually the literature says, and the dosing necessary to get a person through, say, hot flashes or night sweats, or irregular menses, or depression related to menopausal symptoms and that kind of thing. I kind of jump forward, but I was saying lignans are awesome for everything. We got all those foods that have lignans in them, like the ground flax seeds. Get your flax seeds whole, grind them at home. Cranberries, strawberries, Brussels sprouts, kale, broccoli, all really high in lignans, and should be enjoyed regularly. And then, as far as herbs go, we're looking at on the hot flash front, and generally for menopause picture, I would say Vitex is a really good one, because it has this progesterogenic activity. Dong Quai, which is an amazing herb. It's used a ton in Chinese medicine as well as Western medicine for hormonal imbalances. It also is more on the progesterogenic effect as opposed to being estrogenic. Red clover, which is more on the estrogen effect, but also super benign. I would be very careful if you have actually had breast cancer or some kind of hormone related cancer. I would definitely be careful with red clover, and make sure you're actually talking to your doctor and you figure out, okay, is this the best route or not, because it is more estrogenic for sure. And then black cohosh, like I mentioned 15 times here, is not estrogenic. It just works by slowing down luteinizing hormone production, and luteinizing hormone is the big thing that affects hot flashes, the surges in it. All right. I know there's a lot of words here. I'm sorry, but a lot of people are quite intelligent, and you've heard this stuff a ton. So I'm just trying to let you know why you'd want to do it and keep after it, even if maybe you didn't notice your symptoms go away instantaneously, kind of thing, by starting out on a more natural pathway. Tara asks, any herbs for irregular periods? Yeah, I would say so. I would do, or I would suggest trying out Dong Quai, or even actually, I would, black cohosh wouldn't be a bad idea too, with the luteinizing hormone effect. But Vitex by far, or chaste tree, CHASTE, tree berry is my number one go-to. Just generally speaking, for irregular periods or lack of ovulation, chaste tree works amazing. Or if you just want to get pregnant, chaste tree, watch out. You start taking that, Just had another woman about maybe 2 months ago now, probably. Just started on Chase Tree, couldn't get pregnant, been like a little over a year. Starts on Chase Tree, boom, pregnant. Because it is amazing at getting the ovulation going again, and basically getting the corpus luteum to produce like a sufficient amount of progesterone. So it works pretty amazing. But I would definitely go there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff related to stress, of course. Stress is a huge player in why menses would be irregular. And so you do have to, modulating the stress response and looking at things like myo-inositol, which I think I talked about last week or a couple weeks ago. Myo-inositol. It's a type of B vitamin that's pretty amazing at helping with estrogen and progesterone metabolism, testosterone metabolism. If there's any kind of PCOS thing going on there that's related to irregular menses, or it's just straight stress response, or that can be super, super helpful. And then, I would also say stress related to, or our response to stress, how our body interacts with stress in life, would be a big deal for the menopause. I find that some women, and men too, in fact, many men, but right now I'm looking at this, there's a lot of women on here, so I'll talk specifically to the women, that when a woman enters into menopause, sometimes there's this idea, or there's two ideas. One is, this is just the next chapter of my life, great, this is going to be awesome, I don't have to have a period anymore, and I kind of know how I'm going to feel every day, and it should be good. Or there's the other flip side of the coin, which is like, as opposed to this is the next chapter of my life, this is the last chapter of my life. And so it's kind of like, oh my goodness, all my vitality and vigor is gone, and since I can't procreate anymore, I'm just not as useful, or I'm not sure exactly what the subconscious thought is, but there's definitely these two different ideas. So which course, if we're thinking like, oh man, this is the last chapter of my life, I'm 50 years old now, I'm not going to be youthful and young and vital anymore, my skin's going to start sagging and wrinkle, and my hair is going to like change colors and become bristly as opposed to being soft and luscious and all this kind of stuff, we're probably going to be more depressed, and that might promote a little anxiety. But I can tell you, it does not have to be the way, by any means. There's plenty of women who go through menopause, and it is a fairly easy thing, and they feel amazing, they feel strong and vital, and many even feel better because they don't have this up and down in the hormones like they've been experiencing every month previous to this for 30 years or 35 years. So it can be, mindset is huge. How we think things are going to be is 90+%. I was just reading this book on talking about mindset and how people think, and how we interact with life, and so much of it relates to just how we think things are going to be. If we think things are going to be terrible or undesirable, or the chances are they are going to be that way. If we think things are going to be great and joy-filled and fulfilling, that kind of thing, chances are they're actually going to be that way. So how we think about things, our perceptions, play this massive factor in whether or not, say, a woman going through menopause is going to experience, everything a woman would not want to experience with menopause, or it's like, wow, this is amazing, I don't have a period anymore. I can just, go show up to things, don't have to worry about, bringing all this stuff with me in case I start bleeding. Normally I would get headaches every time I had my menses. Now I don't get headaches anymore because my hormones are basically just balanced. And I can, I'm looking forward to either my grandkids or traveling, or, this next chapter. So I would try to make that your go-to if menopause depression is part of things. Think, okay, this is my next chapter as opposed to this is my last chapter. Because 50 is pretty stinking young these days. I mean, literally 50 is like 30. And there's all kinds of, 67-year-old, 80-year-olds doing amazing things, starting new businesses, and doing these crazy fits of fitness. They're not acting like they're 80. because a big part is just the mindset they've taken on, and they've created essentially this new way of living by the way they think. So big deal there. All right. So I'll try to get off that soapbox, but mine's a huge thing. So say depression is an issue, you say, hey, my mindset, I have a very positive outlook on life, and I keep pushing and trying to keep this positive outlook, and just things keep on bombarding me. I feel like I just kind of always have this cloud over me. I wake up and I sleep good, but I wake up and I'm still just kind of tired and lethargic and unmotivated. Then 100% you got to get your thyroid checked. Got to get your B12 levels checked. Make sure those are good. Hashimoto's, or the autoimmune type of thyroid condition, is so common in postmenopausal women. Anytime there's this big flux in hormones, say either with getting pregnant or having the baby, or just starting the menstrual cycle, say when you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, or postmenopausally, anytime there's this big up and down in hormones, the opportunity for things like Hashimoto's to show up is pretty high, especially when the hormones go from a high level to a low level. Because when hormones are high, they're very, very anti-inflammatory. They're helping us build and repair tissues continuously. When they're low, that's happening at a much, much slower level. So the chances of an immune imbalance happening is a lot higher. So definitely get your thyroid checked. You got to do it. Get the whole thyroid panel like I talked about last week. B12 levels checked, because I see that so often it's super low. You need B12 for all kinds of things related to cognition and metabolism of different inflammatory proteins. Really, really important. And then I would also consider, if you have chronic depression or anxiety or like mood changes, is get a urinalysis and just make sure you do not have a urinary tract infection. Because many women who are postmenopausal do not have the same sensations in their urinary areas, and they actually may not even know they have a urinary tract infection, and it can go on for months or even years, and they have this chronic urinary tract infection that's completely messing them up, just dragging all the energy out of them, creating all kind of havoc, even to the point of having high blood pressure, and there's actually like stories like almost like schizophrenia and Alzheimer's, dementia like stuff, all because of a urinary tract infection. Clear the urinary tract infection up, and next they're like back to normal, life's great kind of thing. So I would definitely get a urinalysis, really smart, just to make sure, no urinary tract infections, great. Or then we need to get rid of that, and then maybe think about doing things like cranberry tablets, or a little bit of cranberry juice, or a sugar molecule called D-mannose, MANNOSE, to help minimize any reoccurrence of urinary tract infections. But also, that I was mentioning that estriol, ESTRIOL cream, that's amazing, help with decreasing risk of urinary tract infections, and then also just generally hydration, staying hydrated all the time. Because as we age, we actually lose our desire to drink water, unfortunately. We lose a lot of those same thirst stimulants. So you got to kind of just make sure you're actually getting enough water in. And it's not like, you're drinking a pot of coffee every day and you're forgetting your water, because that is going to give you more hot flashes for sure, and is going to predispose you to increased risk of, say, a urinary tract infection, and depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. Blood volume is a really big deal. The other thing you could think of, on hot flashes, bouncing around a little bit here, but hot flashes, we talked about Dongwei, black cohosh, simicifuga, or that is black cohosh, simicifuga, Vitex, licorice root is really, really good at helping, especially if the adrenal glands are low. So if your adrenal glands are on point, then the chance of having much menopausal stuff that you don't want to have is really low, because your likelihood of symptoms is really low, because the adrenal glands are actually what start producing all your hormones once the ovaries go to sleep. Basically, your adrenal glands and your fat cells. So if fat cells are abundant on your body, then you'll probably produce a few extra hormones. If fat cells are not that abundant, then you'll probably produce a few less hormones. So all the more reason to make sure your adrenal glands are on point, and that the stress response of the body is good. And if not, then we got to look at, which I mention all the time, these adaptogens like rhodiola, ginseng, ashwagandha, Even that myo-inositol, vitamin C, pantothenic acid, making sure we get enough salt. All those things are so good for the adrenals. Dana asks, I've heard of overhydration. How common is that? I would actually say it's not too uncommon. It's definitely becoming way more common because people are told to drink half their body weight in ounces of water a day. I'm sure many of you have heard that before. So there's these things called like medical myths or ideas that just get promoted somewhere along the line, and then people just take it on, and everybody just starts saying the same thing over and over, and you read book after book after book and blog after blog saying all these same things, and basically they're just copying it from other people. There's no science behind it. So you do not need to drink half your body weight in water a day by any means. I can tell you, I do not do that. If I was out doing, heavy workouts or running a bunch, I would probably do that. But otherwise, you're diluting. For instance, so say, you're a 150-pound woman, and you're supposed to drink like 75 ounces of water a day. So you drink 75 ounces of water, plus say you drink a couple cups of coffee, and you drink some tea, and you drink some juice. I wouldn't drink juice. Juice is just probably stay away from juice. But say you have some fruit, so like an apple, or you have some berries, or you have some celery, or vegetables. Those are loaded. The predominant thing in vegetables and fruit is water. So as long as your urine essentially is a lighter yellow color, more than likely you're fine. There are plenty of people that don't drink enough water. Usually it's like way over here. Either I literally drink 0 water and I drink 2 pots of coffee a day, or it's on the other side. People are drinking, gallons of water a day. It's crazy. Some patients, or general population too, how much water some people drink because of this, this thing they've heard from, random friends or people or books or blogs and stuff where they need to drink all this water. So yeah, you don't want to overhydrate. In fact, most people probably be better off, not most, but many people who do overhydrate be better off drinking less water. And the water they do drink, maybe even adding like a little sea salt to it, Redmond real salt or Himalayan salt to actually help their adrenal glands out and give their adrenals that sodium it needs to perform the activities that it wants to do on a daily basis to help with your stress response. Because the more stressed out you are, the more salt you're blowing through, and the more needs you have. And so if you're really stressed out, and sometimes when we're really stressed out, we have this thirst sensation and we get really thirsty. And so we're plugging tons and tons of water. So we're stressed out, burning through all the salt. And then by just the fact, this metabolism of stress itself and adrenaline causes us to use all this sodium. And then on top of that, we drink all this water, we're guzzling all this water, and now we're completely depleted of any of our sodium. So yeah. And that just, cycles back on itself and creates more stress and more imbalance and, leads to what we call, say, like adrenal fatigue or adrenal exhaustion or, all that. So, yeah, balance is key. Anytime you're like, is this even remotely normal what I'm doing? Not compared to like standard Americans, but think about yourself. Say, if we didn't have all the amenities of an industrialized nation, would it be normal for me to eat a 24-ounce steak? Would that be normal for me? Probably not, because I'm not going to have the opportunity to kill another animal to eat another 24-ounce steak the next day or for the next meal. So that's probably not going to be normal. Just like, me going and guzzling, 2 gallons of water or a gallon and a half on water, which that sounds crazy, but there's people that do this, probably isn't that normal because, filtering water and getting clean water is kind of hard to come by outside of places like the United States or Europe and that kind of thing, or industrialized nations. So common sense is a big deal, and just because somebody see somebody at the gym walking around with a jug of water, or you hear some boxer or somebody doing that, doesn't mean that you need to be walking around with a jug of water, because I'm not doing that. I can tell you that. Have a good night, Brett. Awesome. Yeah, so that was a good one. Thanks, Dana, for bringing that up. Great question. You can definitely overhydrate 100%. Think about water as a dilution to pollution. So if we have a lot of pollutants coming into our body via our diet, via lack of movement, we're like this stagnant pond as opposed to a raging river because we're moving all the time and having activity and walking, all that kind of stuff, then we're going to need a lot more water. If we're not stagnant and we're putting all these highly nutritious foods into us, then we don't have a reason to dilute all these pollutants with loads and loads of water. So then, yeah, your water intake doesn't need to be quite as excessive. Plus, like I was saying, fruits and vegetables have tons of water in them, and they are a way to hydrate ourselves without, drinking a gallon of water every day kind of thing. All right, so another one I forgot to mention on the hot flashes was flavonoids. So flavonoids are in like all your colored foods. That's why I like to eat lots and lots of vegetables and fruits with tons of different colors, because we get tons and tons of different flavonoids. Things like arugula. Arugula is really high in flavonoids. But any of your vegetables would be have some level of flavonoids. There is a specific flavonoid called hesperidin, which you can get in supplemental form. That is, we use it a lot of time for allergies and histamine, excess histamine responses. But it actually is really, really helpful. And part of why it helps with allergies because it helps with what we call capillary fragility. So it basically makes it so your capillaries, which are like the last part of your vasculature, your blood vessels, make sure that they aren't breaking apart really easily and that not leaking. So by decreasing leakage, we can help a ton with hot flashes. So part of what causes hot flashes, beyond those luteinizing hormone surges I talked about before, is literally your capillaries leaking. So if we can keep the capillaries from being less fragile by using things like vitamin C, hesperidin, say eating oranges and apples and taking some quercetin maybe, helping basically just rid our body of this excess histamine response, arugula, then we're going to go a long ways in helping decrease hot flashes. But it does, in general, it takes like 8 to 12 weeks to see those changes happen. So patience is our best friend when we're talking about overcoming menopausal symptoms or really any kind of hormonal craziness. And Nikki asks, does that help with histamine intolerance? As in hesperidin? Yeah, I mean, hesperidin definitely can help with histamine intolerance as far as, it's going to help you decrease the breakdown of mast cells and decrease the production of histamine overall. And can even help, it basically makes your body less fragile in general. So a less fragile vasculature means that you're less likely to have histamine spewing out and affecting tissues that aren't expecting to have these big bolus of histamine coming at them any given time. So yeah, definitely. There's a lot more though. If you have true histamine intolerance, you're gonna have to do, with digestive stuff and bacterial balance and that kind of thing. But yeah, if you can, hesperidin definitely is something that I would highly recommend or put high on the list. And it definitely is better to take things like vitamin C, hesperidin, quercetin, these histaminic supportive foods, or not foods, but phytochemicals kind of throughout the day, as opposed to just dropping in bolus doses of them. You'd be better off taking, small doses, 100 milligrams, 200 milligrams, 500 milligrams, 2, 3, 4 times a day, though that kind of complicates things a little bit more. But they can be taken with food or without food, so it definitely is better, taking them that kind of way. All right, let's see. Anything else I wanted to run at you guys? One big thing was vegetable oils. Just wanted to throw this out there. So I was in San Diego this past weekend, and so my usual go-to when I'm out is like to go into Whole Foods. And they have a Whole Foods, like one day we went to 3 different Whole Foods. They got Whole Foods everywhere down there, which is awesome. But, one thing I didn't realize going to Whole Foods is that they are putting vegetable oils, namely our enemy canola oil, in almost everything, on their hot bars and, any kind of stuff that they're, that you could just like go get your lunch or dinner kind of thing. So, or breakfast. That's already been cooked up there. So you really want to stay away from these things. Canola oil, grapeseed oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil, corn oil. Those foods. So safflower, sunflower seeds, grape seeds. These are actually fine foods. In themselves, they're great. Even almond oils and or almonds and stuff like that. Almonds are fine, but once you start pressing seeds, most seeds, and vegetables and you try to extract the oils out of them, you run into massive issues with changing the structure of the fatty acids in there, and you create lots and lots of trans fats. Even the most cold pressed, organically, all these kind of things that they'll tell you about canola oil. I'm telling you, there is just biochemist after biochemist that will tell you that no, there's these fatty acids are so fragile. They're not like olive oil. They're not like coconut oil or oils you would get from meats and that kind of thing that are very easily able to adapt to heats and stressors and that kind of thing. They're very fragile, and the pressure and everything it takes to actually extract these oils is a lot. it takes a ton of effort, and so as part of that, we end up with really messed up oils and really messed up bodies on top of that. Because the thing is, every cell membrane in your body and my body is made up of basically the oils or the fatty acids we ingest. And so if we ingest, Nikki, avocado oil is fine. If we ingest good fatty acids, then so like long chain fatty acids, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, any other ones out there that are pretty good. Those are like the best ones. There's other ones that maybe, like even like flaxseed oil, if you just like potentially sometimes, but you got to be kind of careful with it too. You have to be, there are some flaxseed oil that you can get that's good. You're gonna have to pay for it basically is the deal. So if it's cheap, you're gonna want to pass on that flaxseed oil. I will tell you this too. Try not to run all over the place today. Run all over the place here, but olive oil. One, definitely you got to get in glass, cloudy, glass jars, and get it with some kind of hopefully cloudiness, so it's not just like super clear glass you can see right through, because it will go rancid pretty easily, and it is sensitive to light. And then if you get into plastic, all the plastics leach into oils. Almost all plastics are fat soluble, so you just get like this plastic laden oil that you're about to ingest. So really bad idea. You shouldn't cook with olive oil. Just put it on, use it as dressings and that kind of thing is best, Maria, for sure. I wouldn't heat it at all. But I would try to get your olive oil from like California. Normally, I'm like, stay away from California. They do a lot of crazy stuff down there, make a lot of crazy rules and things. Lots of pesticides, but generally their olives are going to be a lot better. And a lot of the olive oil that comes from Italy, that's sent to the United States, it's not the same as what people in Italy are eating. They'll actually mix it with different canola oils and super, super cheap oils so that they can sell it at a decent price over here. So you really got to be watchful. There is the University of California, Berkeley did this whole study and basically went through all these different oils to figure out which ones were legitimate, which ones weren't. And there's a bunch of them in California that are okay, and had basically olive oil. The olive oil just was olive oil. Amazing common sense, right? Like you buy something that says olive oil on it, and the only thing in it is actually olive oil, which would be amazing. But unfortunately, people are out there making they want to make money, lots of it. So there's a lot of kind of fake olive oils that come from overseas, because they're basically just mixing half and half kind of thing. Selling the exact same name of the product in, say, Italy or France, and that product is actually then shipped to the United States, sold in these big markets, and it's actually not even olive oil over here, though. What oil should you use cooking? Generally, I would use like butter, ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil for most cooking. Those would be my go-tos, or unless you're going to use like fat from like lard or something from meat you've cooked. You pretty much, it's best for the most part to use a hard substance, like something that's like butter, coconut oil, something that actually would solidify, that has a little more saturated fats in it, for the cooking. Let's see, what do you say? So Susie says, can't even sound out the name of that oil, but check it out. And Jennifer likes it too. That's awesome. From Greece, Tara says, I've heard not to heat up coconut oil. You can heat up coconut oil. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, generally speaking, I wouldn't any non animal-based oil or fat. I would not cook more than once. Like I would not. So butter, you could probably do a little bit, but some people are say getting fries that are cooked in coconut oil, and that's that oil's been heated over and over and over and over and over again. There comes a point where it's not going to be a stable oil anymore, no matter how good it was beforehand or how heat insensitive it is that we like to say. So you got it. Definitely have to be you have to be careful if you're going out and getting stuff. You're like, oh, it's awesome, sweet potato fries and coconut oil. Yeah, I mean, probably it's at a restaurant and they're heating it in, and it's not like a local mom and pop kind of chain. It's probably terrible. To be honest. Even if it started out as coconut oil or avocado oil or something like that originally, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, we said don't cook with olive oil. Avocado oil is good oil. Connie says, my Costco basket looked way different today than in the past. I kept saying to myself, Dr. Matt would say no, 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 and yes, yes, yes. I read many labels. That is awesome, Connie. That is the coolest thing I've heard all day. Jennifer, thoughts on MCT oils? Yeah, I mean, you could MCT oils. The thing about MCT oils, medium chain triglycerides, is that they're not really like a health source. They're medium chain, so they aren't used to make up your cell membranes. They're used basically as an energy source for the body. So if generally speaking, like myself personally, I never have medium chain triglycerides. I don't use MCT oil for anything. If a patient was looking to lose weight, that kind of thing, there are definitely instances where I would use that because it can a lot of times help with satiety and basically a feeling of being full. So sometimes I use it for that, and some cases of like chronic fatigue syndrome where there's a lot of energy issues. Many times MCT oils can be kind of helpful for that, or MCT powder. Also Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, maybe where you're trying to get like into ketosis, I would use it. But as a general oil, my suggestion is, though I know if you're watching other podcasts or reading books these days, blogs, people are, tout MCT oil like the godsend for everything, just like a lot of other stuff. Say collagen, works for everything. It's not like adding to your health, MCT oil. So I wouldn't feel bad at all. In fact, I would say, as opposed to buying medium chain triglyceride oil, I would buy fish oil. That would be the thing. I would save your money. They'll be about the same price if you're getting actual MCT oil, good MCT oil. You're way better off getting fish oil. Fish oil would those are the long chain fatty acids. They are very adaptable to the environment. They'll maintain exceptional cell membrane integrity. They'll allow for really great communication from cell to cell, which is what makes your body really happy, and in the end makes us symptomatically very happy. So I would definitely do that. As opposed to MCT oil. And even, if you have good thing is, if your cell membranes are really happy, you are really happy. If you're really happy and you were using, say, MCT oil for appetite suppression or fatigue, energy, things like that, then you're not going to need it anyway because your body's happy. And when cells are happy, everything else is happy. And it's way easier to modulate our appetite, go grab more good food, get physical activity, sleep better, all these kind of things if at the cellular level our cell membranes themselves are really happy. And going back to this whole menopausal thing, if cell membranes are happy, we're less likely to have hot flashes, we're less likely to have capillary fragility leading to more hot flashes, we're less likely to have adrenal issues leading to more issues, all that kind of stuff. So let me see. I'll answer a couple more questions here. Debbie, best fish oil? As far you're asking about brands, there's I use personally in the office a lot of Zymogen, Xymogen, and then I have another fish oil I made company I have personally that I use at home. And then, Metagenics makes a pretty good one. There's Orthomolecular. They make a really good one. They're all, the main thing about fish oils, there's so much jargon about them. I would say Nordic Naturals, they make pretty good ones. Carlson's, they have good fish oils. I would just make sure, with fish oil, you don't want it to be rancid. If you bite into the fish oil capsule and it's like, oh man, this is gross, then it is gross. Which is why I would never get, like Kirkland fish oils where there's like these big old bottles of, 500 tablets kind of thing. You don't want to do that. You're just wasting your money and just putting rancidity into your body. And generally, I would, though, you can save more money that way, but you're hurting yourself while you're saving money at the same time. It's better to get fish oils, either that are, when you say you go into the place, as a general rule, that are stored in a refrigerated section, because then it's less likely, though there are some companies that have specific technology to help where it really doesn't matter, and we have some of those in our office, but generally speaking, if you're getting out of a general store, I would always get ones that are in a refrigerated section. Otherwise, chance of rancidity is just so high, even for pretty decent brands. So I like, Barleans, actually, if you can, Tara asked about for kids, Barleans, they do use xylitol XY as far as the sugar alcohol. So a lot of people can't handle xylitol. But if that's not a problem for your children, I would say, or they don't have any kind of reactions to xylitol, then that's a really good way to get fish oil into them if you feel like you're just not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids into your children, or if they're having any kind of issues with acting out or ADD, ADHD, any of those kind of things, then considering Barleans is a really good one. And they kind of have a special emulsify technology that allows for really good uptake of the fatty acids. So I think any of those brands would be good. Can we walk into your clinic and yep. I mean, if you're you can walk into our clinic and buy it. You can if you're in the area for sure. The one thing is, if you're not an actual patient of ours, then we have to apply sales tax. If you're a patient, then you don't have to pay sales tax because it's considered a prescription for me. But you can also, which Rhoda may be able to do this, if you buy it online, then there's no sales tax, right? So we could get it so that you could buy it online through Zymogen via the clinic, and then you wouldn't have to pay sales tax. All right, so we can see about that. All right, so I think I gotta roll. It's basically 8 o'clock right now. I hope this is really helpful. And if there's anything that you weren't able to understand, or I said too fast, or spelling of it was kind of, or you couldn't spell it out, whatever. If you just leave that in the comments, or if I said I was going to write something down in here and you're not seeing it in here, in the next couple hours, then just say, hey, what was that, or this, or what did you say about that? And I'll come back through and put it in there for you, okay? Because I want this to be actually helpful. The deal is, I listen to podcasts, I read endless books, but I find that many of them aren't actually that helpful. They're almost making life more complicated. So I want this to actually be helpful, where you can say that, hey, I listened to this thing with Dr. Matt, and I was like, you know what, I can do this tomorrow, as opposed to I listened to this thing with Dr. Matt, and now there's like 400 different things I could potentially do. I'm not sure which one I should do. So I wanted this to actually be helpful. So feel free, put down whatever you're thinking, or you maybe had a question about or thought about, and then that you thought, hey, what was that thing you said? And I'll be sure to come back through, or maybe I'll get Rhoda to come back through if I'm not getting them fast enough. All right, you guys? Chris, love the biceps. Dana, thank you. Have a great night. Maria, have a great night. Debbie, Tara, you guys have a great night. Lisa.